Slow. If I'm going fast, slow me down. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just
sharing. Screen కనిపిస్తుందా?
Yes, Kiran.
Okay, very good. 1 minute. Sorry, give me 1 moment. I'm just going to turn off my video for bandwidth. Okay. Okay, Jai Baba, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Today I will talk about spirituality and science, and the whole idea is, in our discussions, but also more broadly in general, there is a lot of debate sometimes around spirituality and science, or religion and science, and spirituality and religion, etc., etc. So I've been reading up about this through different sources. Certainly, our Baba meetings on Sunday provokes a lot of thought. It's a lot of illumination, a lot of education, but also I think through some of the other messages, right? If you take other sources of information, then there are actually a lot of aligned thought. So I thought I'll condense all of that in a simple way. I don't know if I've succeeded on the simple part, but let's see, right? So again, short presentation, then followed by discussion. And this is just to give you an idea of the source of what I call my reflection. So this is what I've looked into. God of Science. So this is a book by a gentleman called Harry Thomas, who in the 90s, when he was doing his Ph.D. dissertation in University of California, Berkeley, got into this, and then of course he got very deep into it. He discovered Baba well after Baba, of course, through mostly in the US. Then of course there is a lot of content in discourses, or there's some content in discourses where Baba actually talks about science and spirituality, science and religion. So some references there. And then of course Chinmay Mission, Chinmayananda, Swami Chinmayananda. So there is some from there. There is actually a few videos on science and spirituality, art of living. Actually, Sadhguru has a lot of material on this, and he covers both the teachings of Jiddu Krishnamurti, who he was influenced by, but also not concepts of quantum physics, but learnings from quantum physics there. I actually did not do much on Stephen Hawking, but he's sort of a renowned atheist, but also a very accomplished man. But I did not get into this book. I was wanting to, but I did not find the time. Of course, a few learnings from Einstein. And I don't know if Gautam has joined, but there's actually a lot of work around the placebo effect around God. And there's actually arguments made on both sides which support both God and the atheist, right? So, and finally, of course, Jiddu Krishnamurti, a lot of writings, and it's funny, it's amazing how common actually what Jiddu Krishnamurti is saying is with a lot of the other things we hear, although it comes across differently, I think. Yeah. Anyway, so
Gautam just joined.
Hey, Gautam joined.
Yeah. Hi, Kiran. Hi, Chandana. Hi, everyone.
Hi. So good. So that is sort of the background. But I have to say that the presentation has significant amount of material from Meher Baba related content, whether it be from the God of Science or discourses, but also from a little bit from the others. I also have some background material, so maybe I can use that in the discussion. I won't share that in the presentation. So few keywords, right? So let us understand a few keywords in this discussion, because definition becomes important. Spirit. So if you think of spirit, it's basically refers to the non-physical part of a person or the essence of anything, where if you look at the individual, it's the seat of emotions and character. Or sometimes, it's the seat of the soul. It refers to the most subtle essence of a person, in contrast to the more gross elements of a person. So that's what spirit is referring to. Spirit, more generally, as an English word, refers to that evaporates once you boil something, right? that releases. So that is spirit. But in this context, it's really from a individual personality standpoint that we're talking of spirit. Spirituality, it is basically that being concerned with the human spirit or the soul. So that is the context of spirituality here. It involves the understanding of something greater than oneself, something more to being human than sensory experience, and that the greater whole of which we are all a part of. So that is what spirituality kind of refers to here. Again, you'll see many definitions, but this is a bit of the essence of it. Religion. So religion now and spirituality, it's oftentimes it is used interchangeably, but for the purpose of our discussion here, it's good to separate it. Religion is the belief in a god or gods, superior powers, organized within a unified system of beliefs, rules, acts, and rituals used to worship a god or a group of gods. So that's what religion is. So now we'll talk a little more about religion. Then science. What is science? Science is the intellectual and practical activity where there is systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation experiment. So the distinguishing bit about science is observation to understand more of objects. Now, the object doesn't actually have to be physical. It can be more subtle. And, there's a lot of references to that. But it's really where you're looking at something objectively, trying to collect empirical evidence, and then you come up with theories or rules or principles that govern the behavior of that world, of what you are studying. But the key is it is through observation of objects and experimentation. Engineering or technology, this is the application of knowledge in order to design, build, and maintain a product or process or a service even that solves a problem and fulfills a need. So spirituality, when applied, becomes religion, can become religion. Science, when applied, can become engineering. Okay? Speed is okay, ma? Okay.
Yes, correct.
Good.
You
So-
just repeat just this sentence.
Spirituality, when applied, can be religion. We'll spend a little more time on that. Don't worry about that right now. But
Okay.
simply speaking, science is knowledge. Knowledge applied through an application to design, build, or maintain something, or a service, or a process is engineering. Okay. Therefore, there can be many definitions, but this is sort of the simplified, just for our discussion. Now, spirituality and science are both an exploration of infinity. So I think we can all agree that there is infinity out there. Infinity being everything that is possible, whether in the grandest of sense. So you take our selves and you go zoom outward or you zoom inward. So if you zoom outward, I think humans are still discovering more and more in terms of what lies within our galaxy, within the universe. And I think we only, our understanding of the universe is limited by our understanding of what is possible. Similarly, on a physical sense, of the gross world, there is also a discovery of the infinite, of the smallest particles. So, you go down to the atomic level, and then you go into quantum physics, which is all still in the scientific world. So if you think of the spectrum of the gross world and the subtle world, and I think Pawan and in your previous presentations, you have referred to this gross and subtle worlds. But this definition of gross and subtle in many ways is similar. But you have a spectrum of gross world or the subtle world, and both, science explores that spectrum. So does spirituality. One is outward looking, one is inward looking. But in that exploration, both of them require a lot of curiosity, inquiry, contemplation, intellect, feeling, meditation, reflection, experimentation, practice. So, and there's, of course, many more verbs I could have used, but all of that is required in that exploration. But they're both an exploration of infinity, and they both require this, but the perspectives are a little different. One is outward looking and one is inward. Okay. So here next we go to the application of spirituality of science. So then what you'll see is spiritual principles. Spiritual principles are, scientific principles. Those are principles, theories, for example, or theorems. Those establish certain principles. And when you apply spiritual principles, they can be applied, which end up either being a religion, or it could simply be a value system. And I'm distinguishing between value system and religion, because value system can become a religion where it gets codified or it becomes dogmatic. But in essence, you have religion, which is sort of has a lot of definition to it, or a value system, which perhaps doesn't have as much definition, but there is a adoption of values. I mean, one good example is Japan. The Japanese culture, for example, they are not very religious, but there's actually a deep value system in Japanese, the way they're taught, the way they are expected to behave. So that, for example, is a value system. Or if you look in religious spectrums, if you take Christianity or Islam or Judaism, they tend to be very rigid in terms of expectations. Hinduism starts getting more fluid. And then, of course, by the time you get to the teachings or the followings of spiritual principles by great Sadgurus or Mahatmas, or you take the Baha'i, it even can't be called a religion, but the Baha'i system, if you will, or the teachings of Baba, Meher Baba, they start going into the value space, right? Because they're not religion really, but they can become religion if it starts getting to become rigid and codified. So that is the distinguishing between religion and value systems in this case. Scientific principles. Science is science, but the science that gets funded and the science that gets resources to be worked on is usually something that can be applied. And that application is through engineering. Engineering is used broadly here, but through a process of engineering, but it's really about application of scientific principles. In this case, technology. In this case, the application of medicine or psychiatry would also fall in that category. But that's what you have when you take scientific principles and you apply them through an engineering or technology usually for the betterment of, both of these, the intention is usually for the betterment of human experience, whether it be in terms of how you live your life, or whether in terms of how your health is, or in terms of how much time you have available, in terms of comforts, or in terms of just betterment. So that is usually the intent behind these, but the outcomes, that intention when applied might be based on principles and for betterment, but the outcomes are always not that. So we've all seen where you have good outcomes and bad outcomes. And sometimes the good and the bad overlap. It might be good in one's perspective, but bad in another's. Or good, it might start off as being good, but then it turns bad, right? So there is principle when applied can be good or bad, both in the spiritual sense or in the scientific sense. So there are many examples of that. You can take the study of nuclear fission, nuclear fusion, and the atomic bomb. There's a lot of benefits there, but we've also seen how it can be applied and what happens there. Value systems. We've seen value systems that can be misused or abused or interpreted differently, creates conflict. And so that's why the good and bad also happens, because there's usually a separateness involved in the application of these. There's usually a division that gets created, and that's where some conflict can arise as well. Okay. Moving on. Now, what I'll do next is I'm going to get into some content from the God of Science and discourses, some quotes. I'll just read it. Some of it is a repetition. Others is maybe new stuff. And after that, I will do a small quiz. Okay. So Sidhu, I'll moderate that part of it. Maybe people can just volunteer some answers, but we'll go through that. But first, I'll do some Baba-related quotes on science and spirituality. Let's start from the left. The new humanity. So this we have read before. which emerges from the travail of present struggle and suffering, will not ignore science or its practical attainments. It is a mistake to look upon science as anti-spiritual. Science is a help or hindrance to spirituality according to the use to which it is put. Just as true art expresses spirituality, so does science, when properly handled, can be the expression of the fulfillment of the spirit. Scientific truths concerning the physical body and its life in the gross world can become a medium for the soul to know itself. But to serve this purpose, they must be properly fitted into the larger spiritual understanding. This includes a steady perception of true and lasting values. In the absence of such spiritual understanding, scientific truths and attainments are liable to be used for mutual destruction and for a life which will tend to strengthen the chains which bind the spirit. All-sided progress of humanity can be assured only if science and religion proceed hand in hand from the discourses. The next one, for example, this is in response to a question that Baba was asked in 1940. I think I don't remember exactly what the circumstance was. I forgot that, but his response, for example, the body is purely material, physical and gross, but it is the medium for the soul to know itself, provided it is dealt with and handled rightly. Otherwise, it becomes a hindrance to spiritual progress. Similarly, scientific principles and truths, if used rightly, help in the spiritual progress of the universe. But if improper use is made of them, they are bound to be a source of hindrance in the spiritual path. If science deals only with material advancement, then such science would be said to have nothing of spirituality. But when the same science is expressed to make the meaning of life clear, then it is also a branch of spirituality. Just as art, expressed rightly, is spiritual, if expressed wrongly, material. And this from everything and the nothing. The greatest scientists themselves are becoming dismayed at the areas of knowledge still beyond them and appalled what their discoveries may unleash. It will not be long now before they admit complete bafflement and affirm the existence of this eternal reality, which men call God, and which is approachable through the intellect. So here's the reference to, eternal reality, infinity.
Could you repeat the last saying? Can you repeat the last one?
The greatest scientists themselves are becoming dismayed at the areas of knowledge still beyond them and appalled at what their discoveries may unleash. It will not be long now before they admit complete bafflement and affirm the existence of this eternal reality, which men call God, and which is unapproachable through the intellect. Okay? So now let's a little bit of context. Meher Baba lived through a time of actually great scientific progress. Today in 2021, we think the world has moved on a lot, but if you just think of the context of all these things that happened during Baba's lifetime, it's actually quite amazing in terms of if you think of the beginning state and the end state and the progress therein. So if you just a few examples here, the automobile actually great life during that time. Air travel, photography. I didn't realize this, but the sewing machine actually was during Meher Baba's time. I didn't realize that. Film, movies, ability to record movies, telephones. Anybody recognize this picture of this train? Where is that picture from? Any guesses? Okay, you can, but the railway.
Ahmednagar, is it?
Huh? Yeah,
Ahmednagar, is it? I don't know.
Mehrabad, right across when you're going from Mehrabad to Mehrazad, no?
This train.
Not this train, that railway track and that.
Oh, yeah.
Where you cross over. Yeah, anyway. But I mean, the point there is not the tracks themselves, but the train system. Gramophone, radio, actually the tape recorder. So all of those came about in that time frame. Huh? Look at this telegram, the system of telegrams, sending telegrams around. I remember getting a telegram even when I was in Kharagpur in '89. Till recently, telegrams were being used, huh? But that invention was actually not that long ago. It was in the last century. Of course, space exploration became big, right? So, the moon landing was obviously later in Baba's life, but even before then, the first man to orbit Earth, first man to go into space, first dog. I think Prabhakar Mai, Sakuntalata, you named Laika, I think, after the first dog that went into space. Laika and Luna, I remember that. But it's all in the time frame, right? Of course, the television, X-rays, and then like I talked about space travel also, but at the atomic bomb as well. Huh? So this is the context in which a lot of what Baba was saying there comes into context as well, right? So just a couple of other takeaways from that book, but the essential thing is Meher Baba's work and words suggest a balance in the consideration of science and spirituality with a certain purposefulness or a divine purposefulness. So just a couple of quotes from Listen Humanity and Harry Thomas, God of Science. So by the way, all those previous things that I got were all from the God of Science, which is, it's actually a good documentary thing of all of those evolutions as well. But just coming back, Listen Humanity, the spiritual attitude represents nothing essentially new in the material life of the individual, but is rather a reorganization and reinterpretation of all that existed in his life and an infusion of new meaning into the present and the future. In achieving this reorientation, the aspirant often finds himself temporarily confused. One of these points of confusion concerns his attitudes towards intellectuality, science, and technology. If the spiritual quest is to be real, it cannot be deflected by an obsession with this vital network of modern civilization. In some way, the aspirant must place it in its proper perspective with the totality of human development and thereby not be hypnotized nor repelled by it. Okay. Next, this is from the book. So this is not Baba's words. This is Harry Thomas. Meher Baba's masterwork of God Speaks is replete with glistening examples of scientific information. During the evolutionary consciousness of the soul, 7 kingdoms of form are entered and eventually discarded in the quest of ultimate realization. This destined journey involves the minerals, plants, insects, animals, and humans of this world. Unlike Darwin's depiction of evolution, Baba's accounting of the process connects all the various forms to a divine purpose, monitored by God. In presenting these spiritual truths, an astonishingly clear accounting of creation is rendered, while at the same time scientific underpinning is gloriously revealed. God Speaks is an extraordinary work of the highest spiritual caliber. However, it is simultaneously a book overflowing with superbly accompanying scientific components. And anyway, I think Pawan, in your one of your previous sessions, you've talked about this progression. So actually, the parallels with Darwin, if you see, are quite amazing, right? But of course, the motivation behind all of that, Baba expands on. Okay, now this is the next part of the quiz. So the way we'll work is I'm going to read a quote, and anybody is welcome to come and say who said that. Okay. Okay, Baba, ready?
For memory loss, you give some extra points.
Memory loss ki.
Senior citizens. Senior citizens.
Okay, senior citizens answer first.
No, senior citizens.
And then the juniors. Okay, first one. The more I study science, the more I believe in God. Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. Who said it?
Einstein.
Hey, juniors are answering for seniors. Yeah, correct. Einstein.
Baggy answered that.
Oh, Baggy answered that.
Very good.
Good.
Clap for her.
Clap, Baggy. Okay, next one. Our scientific prowess has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. Who's that? Googling, everybody's Googling.
Abdul Kalam.
Oh, Abdul Kalam. Good one, but not. But that's a good possibility, kada? Martin Luther King. Actually, I won't give the answers now. Next page, I've got all the answers. Next one. Do not equate intellect with intelligence. Do not equate intellect with intelligence. Any thoughts?
The person who didn't have intellect. How is that?
Intellect. Gautami, any guesses?
Guru,
Guru. Yeah.
అందరికి గౌతమ్ గుర్తుకొస్తాడండి ప్రతి సెషన్ లో we miss గౌతమ్.
Actually, it's if you read Jiddu Krishnamurti and actually Sadhguru also, there's a lot of reference to this intellect and intelligence. So I think sometimes we mix the two up, and that was a very revealing phrase for me. We can spend a little bit of time talking about it later. Okay, very good. Sidhu. Next, I'll go back down here. Spirituality. Okay, no, I'll do that last. The very act of understanding is a celebration of joining, merging, even if on a very modest scale, with the magnificence of the cosmos. Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality. Who said that?
Meher Baba.
Okay, possible, but not. Okay, we'll come to that. Okay. God has no religion. Who said that?
Meher Baba.
Baba has spoken through somebody else on that. Okay. Huh? Gita, what do you say? Okay.
Mahatma Gandhi, is it?
Mahatma Gandhi, correct. Spirituality is the science of the soul. It's actually from a famous speech this man has given at the UN.
Vivekananda.
Swami Vivekananda.
అప్పుడు యుఎన్ లేదు.
UN కాదు, but World Conference of ఇది. Correct. More senior citizen, correct?
World Spiritual Congress.
Spiritual Congress, yeah.
ఎవరు చెప్పారు సీనియర్ సిటిజన్?
నేను చెప్పాను.
Senior citizen and citizen.
World religions kada Vivekananda.
Amma, Prasanna, why you're equating
ప్రసన్న చెప్పాడు, తెలియట్లేదు. మెన్షన్ చేయండి.
Don't, yeah.
Winner Prasanna, yes, correct.
Okay. What is the answer? We didn't hear. What is the answer?
Swami Vivekananda.
World of Congress.
Spirituality is the banana. Religion is the banana peel. The banana peel helps carry the essence, the food, the nutrition, the spirit of the banana. People have forgotten the banana and keep tripping on the banana peel. And remember, the Guru just helps peel the banana for you. He is not the banana. Paraphrase quote, who said it?
Isha.
Huh?
A very good quote.
Sadhguru Isha.
I don't know who said it, but it's a very good quote.
ఎంత పెద్ద కోర్టు సద్గురు ఇచ్చాడు.
Sadhguru ain't.
Baba garu.
Sadhguru Isha.
Meher Baba.
It might 1 year Meher Baba asked now because Baba speaks to everybody.
Sri Ravi Shankar.
Actually, correct. Both Sri Ravi Shankar and Swami Chinmayananda have used this. So I attributed to Swami Chinmayananda, but Sri's also got it. Correct. So both answers are correct.
Someone seems to be Googling.
Sri, yeah.
No, I'm not Googling Prasanna.
You're not
I'm just
Googling?
going by elimination now.
His
Elimination.
hand is not good.
Swami Vivekananda is done. Sadhguru is done. I'm going by elimination.
From the first slide. Huh?
Okay.
Good. Okay. When I was 19 or 20, I developed a deep curiosity about science that began with an interest in mechanical things and how they worked. 30 years ago, I began a series of dialogues focusing on cosmology, neurobiology, quantum physics, and biology. Scientists have learned more about the mind and emotions, and we have gained a subtler explanation of matter. Huh?
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking, no, no. Elimination process, Prasna. Okay, we'll come to that. And this one, I thought this was a very good one. It's not by that famous a person, but Manatta, I remember you shared a couple of videos with this person. This is, I don't think from one of them, but those are funny clips. But this person, there's some YouTube videos and talks, very nice. Spirituality should be about the teaching of the mentor or the guru. It should never become about the personality of the guru. Spirituality should be about the teachings of the guru. It should never become about the personality of the guru.
Is it that ISKCON person, Kiran?
Yeah,
Gaur,
ISKCON, Gaur, yes. Gaur Gopal.
గుండె ఆరెంజ్ డ్రెస్ పేరు
గుండు Gaur Gopal Das.
ఆరెంజ్ ఆకర్ కలర్
Prabhupada, na? Prabhupada. Huh?
No. Gaur Gopal Das. I'll show the photo.
Gopal Das, correct.
1 minute. So, any other guesses for anything we have not said? I think we covered everything. Oh, no, we haven't covered this when I was 19 or 20. So, any guesses on that one? Okay. And the answer is, there you go.
గురుకు ఫీడ్ కదా
Oh my goodness.
ఐఐటి చేసి దీంట్లో వచ్చాడు కదా స్పిరిచువల్.
This for the, correct, my.
గురు
వెరీ ఫేమస్
గౌర్
పర్సనాలిటీ డెవలప్మెంట్ ఆల్సో
చాలా బాగా చెప్తాడు.
ఈ టాప్ పిక్చర్ ఎవరిది? అబవ్ గాంధీ.
Sorry, above Gandhi is Carl Sagan. Remember Carl
Sagan? Okay.
Cosmos, he wrote it.
Cosmos, yes.
Thomas Alva Edison, left side top. Who is he?
Edison, correct. Edison kaadu, Einstein.
Einstein, sorry.
Jai Baba. Whoever got correct answers, some of your samskaras have been wiped away. That's the reward.
Good. It was beautiful.
That means who have not answered, some sanskaras have got added, Kiran.
Some sanskaras added for those people.
We have single point devotion only. Baba books.
Ade Ravi bhai, nu annitiki Baba anestunaru.
ఇందాక ప్రవీణ్ రాంతే నేను కదా ప్రవీణ్ అన్నాడు బాబా.
ప్రవీణ్ అన్నాడా? సారీ ప్రవీణ్, నువ్వు కూడా బాబా టెర్రరిస్ట్ అయిపోయావు.
కానీ ఇది కూడా బాబా గారిది పెట్టలా ఇక్కడ. నేను కొద్దిగా డిసప్పాయింట్ అయిపోయాను.
నేను 6 బాబా కోడ్లు పెట్టాను.
బాబా గారిది ఏం లేదు అక్కడ పిక్చర్.
కిరణ్ ఫినిష్ ద
Okay, yeah. So finally, just let me conclude this. Thank you. Okay. So finally, this is just my takeaways. So I share this with all humility, but I just want to say, I was asking myself the question repeatedly: should I believe in God, or should I be curious about God? At the end of the day, the question is, how do I evolve as a human being? Right. So we all talk about evolution. There's many theories, many things, but I think we all agree that we all want to evolve. So some key takeaways. So let me read these one by one slowly. So in history, spirituality and science have not been at odds. Spirituality and science have not been at odds. Religion and science have perhaps been at odds. So if you see conflict between science and spirituality, it's actually not science and spirituality. It's more religion and science. Because that leads to a question, what is religion? So we can talk about that separately. The religious believer and the atheist are actually one and the same. They both tend to have a very strong belief. So that's sort of another key point. Belief, by definition, suggests one is not completely sure. So if you believe something, you're not completely sure about it because you're having to believe it. If one believes, they don't truly know it to be true. You don't fully know it to be true. So believing something means that you don't know it is true. That's why you believe it. Strong beliefs without knowledge leads to dogma. belief with curiosity leads to knowledge. So I tried to summarize all that together, but I was listening to this talk. Both Jiddu Krishnamurti and Sadhguru have similar examples. Like let's say you go to some place in your car and you park your car in a parking lot, a big parking lot, right? And then you're coming out after the event. Let's say it's a sports game or a talk show or something, and you come out and now you have to go park your car, find your car. This is before you have Google Maps, right? So then, whoever's with you will ask, hey, where did you park the car? And you say, I believe I parked it there somewhere, roughly. So in saying that, you have a strong sense that your car is somewhere there, in quotes. But there's a possibility that it's not, right? So there is a sense of it being somewhere there. But you're not absolutely sure. That's why you say you believe you parked it there. But of course, you go to walk in that general direction, and the high likelihood you'll find it there, but there's a possibility you don't. So that was, for me, an interesting, very simple example where the word belief came into a bit more of light. Now you can get into faith and belief and all of that. I have not gotten into that. But belief, by its very thing, is not absolutely sure. So to convert belief to knowledge, you have to gain more and more confidence in it. And that is through knowledge. And there are many ways to gain knowledge, but we'll talk a little bit about that. So that's sort of the essence. There's a lot of talk about being dogmatic also. I have not gone into that, but the word dogmatic is a very strong word. Religion tends to have a lot of dogma or dogmatism. So that is very dangerous, dogma. And I think we have to all watch out for that in whatever we get deeply believing in. So that is just a takeaway for me. Knowledge is important. Seek knowledge in your own way. We are all blessed with different strengths and different dimensions to our intelligence. Of course, dictated by samskaras, vasanas, proclivities, etc. So knowledge is important. Apply, discover, awaken your full intelligence, not just your intellect. What that also means is do not follow blindly. Observe yourself and the world around you with humble curiosity. I think that's key. Curiosity is key and humble curiosity is key, because curiosity, when you say, I already know that, or when you brush something aside, is not good, but just accepting it blindly also is not. So there's a balance, and there's, we all know what that is. So I think you want to awaken your full intelligence. Intelligence includes, so what is intelligence? Intelligence includes multiple dimensions and faculties for you as a person. So if you think about your faculties, you may think it's only those 5, but if you actually go into yoga, not the physical yoga, but just yoga in general, Sadhguru has a lot of that. I think there's 16 different faculties that you have. So I think you want to explore all of those as a person, which includes intellect, but also feelings, intuition, and the ways to go about it is contemplation, meditation, service, prayer. So all of these can enlighten or awaken your intelligence. Love is a key theme, and it's, I think that has been expounded a lot. But I think love in all of this, love for what you do, love for for something larger than yourself. So love in general is very important. I think one thing we have to keep in mind is understanding spiritual principles are as important as understanding scientific principles, because in the end of the day, principles themselves don't care. There's no good or bad. It's just there's consequences that arise out of a certain action. So there's that understanding spiritual principles are important, just as we are, and that's a process of exploration. Use a guru, master, mentor for guidance to provoke your curiosity and your learnings, of course. Beware of clinging to the banana peel, but seek the guru's help in getting the banana. So keep that in mind. Finally, be humble. Beware of the aham. So there's there's a lot of talk. So there's aham and ahamkara, but ahamkara can be in reference to you, your own ego, but also your guru. And maybe it's not the ego of the guru, but it's the ego you associate with your guru. So all of that, question goes back to this whole thing of, are you holding on to the banana or on the banana peel. I think that's a very good metaphor, and that helps clarify a lot of things. Anyway, so I have some backup material. Thought this quote of Meher Baba was very good. In order to appreciate truth, approach it through itself without any game of hide and seek. We don't have to get into all of this, but there's some more content. So Sidhu, I'll pass it back on to you. Jai Baba.